Today I want to talk about definition of done. I want to talk about what it is and why it's such a valuable tool for us as a team. We're in the middle of the sprint, we work on a bunch of stuff, and one day we gather in the daily stand-up and we move the final tasks from ongoing to finished. And that should imply to our product owner and ourselves that we are done with every aspect of this user story, and that we can forget about it and move on to the next one. But earlier we realized that there were a lot of confusions regarding what done really means for us, and we were all often surprised that we had forgot some aspects, or we actually were in agreement of which work we were supposed to do. And that's why definition of done is such a valuable tool for us, because it's a simple checklist that clearly states, well, what aspects of work have we done in order to fulfill this user story? And I think a good definition of done is generic. It means that it's the default template of what we intend to do. Every use case, every user story is unique, so it might be the case that you need to add additional acceptance criteria for each story, but the default definition of done should be describe the generic default template. It should be true, meaning that you actually obey to it. You try to live and work by it. It should be accepted. Everyone in the team should agree upon that this describes the way we work. It should be achievable. You should be able to, as a team, we can actually fulfill all aspects of the definition of done. And a really powerful definition of done also manages to mitigate risk early. And in some sense, a definition of done also describes which risks that are okay to postpone to later. And I think a really good and valuable definition of done covers stuff as how it has been designed, how we code, how we version, how we test, how we document, that it's deployable and approved, designed. We might agree that the user story itself has to be properly written and contain perhaps embryos of the acceptance tests. Coded, perhaps we agreed upon to do pair programming and use test-driven development. Versioned, how do we merge, how do we branch, how do we label? Tested, which kind of tests have we run? Have we done exploratory testing, regression testing, integration testing? How have we tested, and which tests have we run when we say that we are done with the story? Documented. Which documents? Do we update the system architectural overview, the user manual, and so on? And finally, it should be deployable and, if possibly, even approved, for example, by the product owner, preferably even before the sprint demo, so there's no surprise awaiting. So, our definition of done describes how we do our work. The user story describes the product we want to build and aspects of that. And in a sense, this will constitute a quality contract, so to speak, between us, the team, and the product owner and the stakeholders eventually. And this should be a really crystal clear definition of when we as a team say we are done with something, well, it means this. In the beginning I mentioned definition of done in some sense describes which risks are okay to postpone till later. What do I mean with that? Well, take this team, they're friends of ours. They have a definition of done they fulfill for every story. So for every sprint they deliver 4 new features. By the time the deadline arrives, where this big fair hits, that we have to demo what we have accomplished so far, we know that we can show 20 features, because we don't postpone any work to a release or stabilization phase. We're actually done and finished with every aspect of work, every sprint for every story. So this gives us big freedom when prioritizing, and we can start on something new and so on. And we know that after every sprint we could release. We can't go to this big and important fair. We're not afraid because we haven't postponed any risks. But that's not always the case. All right, this more describes our situation in our team. We have postponed some work to a stabilization or test phase, test sprint. So a couple of aspects that should be in the definition of done per story, we have put in the definition of done for the release. So yeah, we don't fulfill every quality aspect of our work in the sprint, we actually postpone some work to later. But postponing work also means postponing risk. So we might have postponed finishing system technical documentation or running final acceptance tests or performance tests. But postponing that kind of work, well, it introduces risk. We no longer know that this is a time box sprint. It might show that the work we have will be much more. So even though we can fool ourselves to think that we will have more features, 24 according to this example, well, we actually risk missing this important deadline. So that's why a really good definition of done for the story and for the definition of done for the release will help you have really good dialogue regarding which risks do we postpone. And we in our team, we try every sprint retrospective to question, is there stuff we do in the test or stabilization sprint that we can do earlier? So we every time try to move 1 or 2 lines here into the sprint so that we hopefully one day can end up in this situation. So I hope this was a clear description of what a definition of done is and why it's such a valuable tool.